Hello there guys, welcome to another of my live videos. Before I do get into it all, I'd like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and all that, and I hope you all have a good day. On this video this morning, I am going to be giving you my reaction to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's press conference building up to the Manchester United versus Newcastle game at Old Trafford on Boxing Day, 5:30 kickoff, which is tomorrow. Also, I am going to give you my starting 11 prediction for the game, and it is match day 19 in the Premier League. So Solskjaer has provided us with some news regarding Paul Pogba during his press conference. He actually did his press conference yesterday, and he's assured it's more than likely that Paul Pogba will be starting the game against Newcastle, which is very good news. Obviously, Solskjaer said he was a big plus when he came on against Watford. I thought he did really well when he came on against Watford. I think he came on and created around three chances, so he was the big plus. But it's good now to see Paul Pogba back in action anywhere, because he has, he was out with an ankle injury for around 3 months, or I think it was more of 3 months. He also, recently, had an illness and that. But yeah, he has missed the vast majority of our games this season. And Solskjaer has come out and said he's the best all-rounder midfielder in the world and that. And Solskjaer is very convinced that he will not be sold in January. So according to Solskjaer, he will be here in January. Probably will be staying at Man United in January. I presume we'll probably leave next summer. But if he doesn't leave next summer, then I think he will leave at some point in the future, because I'm very skeptical, that he will um spend the rest of his career for Manchester United from now. But I still think he does want to leave the football club. But like I said, we know the difference makes in that midfield. He's a box midfielder. He can drop deep, like Solskjaer was saying, and he's only at the age of 26, and he has got a lot of development in him. Pogba, of course, has got around 17 or 18 months left on his current contract. We do have an option to extend it by a further year. I know, analysing the vast majority of Paul Pogba's career, he hasn't performed to the standards as we should expect from him. I think the vast majority of his performances at Man United have been totally comparison to his ones at Juventus. I think we mainly saw the best of him in that 3 month period when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the interim manager. Yeah, so it's good to see him back in action anywhere. And like I said, it's going to be a very difficult game against Newcastle, because recently, Newcastle have seemed to rejuvenate themselves. Obviously, since they recommended Steve Bruce in, this is Steve Bruce's first season as Newcastle manager, because don't forget during this summer Rafael Benitez had resigned as Newcastle manager and that. And obviously, Newcastle are level on points of us in the table. We're on 25 points after 18 games. Newcastle are on 25 points after 18 games, but we are above them on goal difference. We're sitting 8th. We're 7 points behind top 4, and we've got to get back to winning their ways in the Premier League, because we are winless in our last 2 games, and we've got to see a total comparison performance to what we saw in the 2-0 defeat against Watford on Sunday. Obviously, Newcastle did beat us early on in the season, the reverse fixture. It's in James Park. It was 1-0. We did a double over them last season, beat them 2-0 at St James's Park. It was a 3-2 at Old Trafford. In that game, we overcome a 2-goal deficit. So we showed good determination to get back into that game. The last time Newcastle did beat us at Old Trafford was back in 2013. So that is almost 7 years ago now, and it was back under the David Moyes era. But we usually do really, really well against Newcastle anyway. But they've got quite a few good players of Newcastle. Obviously, they've got Andy Carroll. They've got Yedlin, who was pretty good for them. They've got the likes of Kieran Clark. They've got Kieran Clark. They've got Matt Ritchie. They've got John Joe Shelver. So Newcastle have got quite a few good players. But yeah, like I said, we do have to win this game and that. And Solskjaer also mentioned during his press conference that he's aware that we've had a good periods this season, that where we've had like a few wins under his belt, but we haven't kept that consistency up, which has been a disappointment. But he says when we've had a few winless games and that we've obviously reacted well, so we do expect a reaction from the players, from that 2-0 defeat to Watford. And that 2-0 defeat to Watford was our 50 feet of the Premier League season. From a Watford perspective, they would have been absolutely delighted, because they wouldn't have expected to get out from the game, because they've enjoyed a bad start to the season. Watford are fighting a relegation battle. That was only Watford's second win of the Premier League season. Their first win at home. But they've seemed to have rejuvenated themselves, since Nigel Pearson, took over. It's obviously Watford's third manager of the season. Because not too long ago they did sack Sanchez Flores. But obviously two of Watford's goals came from two individual mistakes. One from De Gea, one from Wan-Bissaka, that obviously led to the penalty. But like I said, we are enjoying our worst start to a Premier League season for over 30 years. So like I said, we're 8th in the league. This is the lowest we've ever been in the Premier League era at this stage. So that just indicates how bad we are doing in that. I'm very, very sceptical, that Manchester United will sack Mulligan and Solskjaer. They won't sack him now. They won't sack him now. I think they'll give him at least a couple more windows, to see who else he can recommend in to the football club. He's already making plans for the January transfer window. Isn't long now until the January window opens. Like I updated you yesterday, it says that our board are determined to back Solskjaer in January and next summer. And reportedly, we've identified, the board have identified 4 January transfer targets for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Man United. And I've reportedly Solskjaer is going to be given unlimited funds. So I think I'm estimating here that the club will consider spending from between maybe 250 to 300 million pounds on recruiting new players in next year. Solskjaer's recently admitted that his rebuild is behind schedule, and that this is what he's come out and admitted. But yeah, massive rebuild is needed at the football club, and next year we've got to address the deficiencies in the squad. We've got to get the right caliber players into the football club. Players that can elevate us forward and get us back up there. Challenging for major honours and that. But the 2 priority areas where Man United need to strengthen up. We need to strengthen up in that midfield. We also need a couple of strikers. Someone who can come in that can create chances. Someone that can score goals and that, and I think we need a right winner, and there's possibly no other areas in the squad that do need to be addressed. So it's good that we are making plans for next year. But the one thing I'm very, very sceptical about is that Solskjaer will see out his 3-year contract at the football club. I do presume he will be gone by then. But obviously, even though we've enjoyed a disastrous start to the season, the vast majority of our players are willing to back Solskjaer. Ed Woodward is determined to stand by him. Obviously, the board, I'd certainly stand by him. So obviously, their perceptions are totally comparison to mine and a lot of Manchester United fans. I think disregard Solskjaer, being a club legend and that, and I think he probably would have been sacked by now. But like I've said to you on numerous occasions, that we've had some positive results this season. And I think in some games in that, we've actually, performed well. As some aspects of our game have improved. Recently we've created more chances in that. Certain players have rejuvenated themselves. But there's still definitely, some aspects of our game that do need to improve. But, look who we've beaten this season. We've beaten Man City, we've beaten Tottenham. You can say them two games saved Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's managerial tenure at the football club, definitely. Because we hadn't won them games, I think Solskjaer would have been sacked. Probably got to say that the game against Man City is probably Solskjaer's best game so far during his managerial career with Man United. We beat Leicester early on this season. We drew with Liverpool. We're the only team this season to take many points from Liverpool. We also beat Chelsea at the beginning of the season by 4 goals to 0. So I just can't understand, what we've done against elite opposition, why we can't replicate that against lower opposition. I think we've drawn far too many games this season. I think we've drawn, 7 games this season? Yes, we've drawn 7 games this season. I think the vast majority of them draws we actually should have won. We should have won at Sheffield United away, even though we didn't play well. We had about a good 10-minute spell where we played well. We showed good determination to come back from 2 goals down. And if we'd have won on that lead, that would have been fantastic for us, because taking into account Sheffield United are doing very, very well this season under Chris Wilder. He's progressed them from League 1 to 5th in the Premier League, so you've got to credit him for what he's done. Chris Wilder's in his 4th season now with Sheffield United. I think they could finish in the top 7 this season, if I'm going to be honest with you. I think, we should have beaten Wolves away, even though Wolves are a very competitive team. I think we also should have beaten Southampton. Maybe we should have beaten Everton. So there's a lot of games this season where I think, we actually should have won. And obviously, we've already had 5 defeats this season. Obviously, we shouldn't have lost to Watford. We shouldn't have lost to Newcastle. We shouldn't have lost to Bournemouth. We shouldn't have lost to West Ham. And we shouldn't have lost to... we shouldn't have lost many of them games in that. So we lost to Newcastle, Bournemouth, West Ham, Crystal Palace. We shouldn't have lost to them at home either. They're the only team this season that I've so far that I've obviously beat as Old Trafford. They're the only team that have done it, so we shouldn't have lost that either. But yeah, we need to win this game against Newcastle. It's very, very imperative, because we've got games coming up thick and fast. Obviously 2 days after Newcastle, we've got Burnley. Then we go away to Arsenal on New Year's Day. We've got Wolves then coming up in the FA Cup. Then after Wolves, it's the first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final against Man City. In that Liverpool's obviously in mid-January. So yeah, games are coming up thick and fast. So I think the team that Solskjaer is going to go with against Newcastle. I think he'll probably stick with David De Gea in goal. I know recently, there has been a lot of Manchester United fans that have been obviously, well, quite a few have said that David De Gea should be dropped, reflecting on his bad mistake made against Watford. David De Gea, of course, made, I think, a couple of mistakes early on this season. But in that aspect, he's replicating, what he did towards the back end of last season, because towards the back end of last season, David De Gea had made quite a few mistakes. But David De Gea, he's not as he was, he's not as good as he was, earlier on last season. But I still think he's regarded as one of the best goalkeepers in the world. David De Gea is now into his 9th season at Manchester United. He's enjoyed 8 seasons at the football club, and I admire him, because he's had a fantastic career. I've got to say he's had a good 7.5 years out of the 8 years he has been here. David De Gea has made a total of 381 appearances for the club in all competitions and kept around 131 clean sheets. And he's obviously won everything here domestically. He's won the St Matt Busby Player of the Year. Don't forget, 4 times out of the past 6 to 7 years, reflecting on his impressive performances. And I think David De Gea is still the age of 28. He is on a substantial amount at the club. He's the highest paid at the club. He's the highest paid goalkeeper in the world, because David De Gea is on around £375,000 a week. Take into account and that, but he has been here since the Alex Ferguson era. But there's a few Man United fans saying he should be dropped, like I said, and saying that Sergio Romero should be giving him a chance, because Romero does keep quite a lot of clean sheets. Romero is obviously our second choice keeper. We usually play Romero in the Carabao Cup or the Europa League and that. But I probably do presume he will stick with David De Gea. So I'm giving you my starting 11 prediction now. I think also what Solskjaer needs to do is I think he needs to change the formation. He has been going with the 4-2-3-1 formation on a regular basis this season. That formation, hasn't seemed to be, working out. I know a couple of times, Solskjaer's gone with 3 at the back, he went with 3 at the back against Sheffield United, 3 at the back against Liverpool, 3 at the back against Partizan Belgrade. But I think we know we need to revert from the 4-2-3-1 to the 4-3-3, like we did do in that 3-month period when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the interim manager. So we've got to try that formation. We've got to go with a system where we can avoid, obviously, playing a number 10. Whether he does or not, I do not know, but I think it's probably likely he'll stick with a 4-2-3-1. So David De Gea in net. Wan-Bissaka at right back, definitely. I think Wan-Bissaka's been absolutely momentous this season. I've been absolutely delighted with his performances, and he's the type of player that we can rely on. I think Wan-Bissaka can be our fullback for the next decade, and obviously since his arrival he's been emerged as our first choice right back and that. But his performances this season have been very, very good. And if he keeps these good run of performances up, his valuation will persistently grow. I think he'll go with Lindelof and Harry Maguire as a centre-back partnership. I think, they've blended in very, very well together for the vast majority of this season. Maybe, Lindelof... I think he has been below par, to be fair, recently. But I still think he's a very, very good player. Maybe people say we need a better centre-half playing alongside Harry Maguire. But you can say Harry Maguire has addressed our defensive deficiencies as well. Left-back, I presume we'll go with Luke Shaw. Even though Brandon Williams has been established now as our first choice left-back. Obviously now that Brandon Williams is obviously come onto the equation, I don't think, we'll be too bothered about getting a left-back into the football club next year. But I've been very, very impressed there with Brandon Williams' performances. But I think, Luke Shaw will play him at left-back. I think he'll, if he's to go, I'm going to go with a 4-3-3 anyway. I think in the midfield it's quite obvious, isn't it? He'll go with Pogba, Fred and McTominay, providing that he does go with a 4-3-3. It's good to see, Paul Pogba back now. He brings creativeness in that midfield. Gotta say, Fred and McTominay, I think, have done well, especially recently in that. I think they've complemented each other well in our midfield. I don't know if Fred and McTominay are the long-term solutions for Man United. But if they can keep the good run form up, then I am confident, they can both emulate into two Glasgow midfielders. But I've been very, very impressed there with them. And I think the front three, I think he'll go with Daniel James, of course. I think he'll probably not operate on the left, or he'll operate on the right, and Rashford will go on the left, I don't know. Daniel James, of course, has been a consistent starter this season, but he's deserved to keep his place in the team, reflecting on his impressive performances. But I'm actually surprised, with the amount of games he has played. When we signed him in the summer, like I've said before, I didn't expect him to play as many games to the extent as he has done. And don't get me wrong, Daniel James is still a prospect and he needs time to develop, but he has done really, really well. I think Rashford will probably play him out on the right side. I think Daniel James will be on the left and Rashford will be on the right. Obviously now Rashford operates on the flank because obviously Anthony Martial plays in that central position, because it got confirmed at the start of this season that Anthony Martial has been given that number 9 shirt. I've been very, very impressed with Rashford. Like I said, I don't think he was too good against Watford, but prior to that, I think he's done really, really well. Rashford so far is on 14 goals this season for the football club. He has made 194 appearances now for Man United and scored 59 goals. This is in all competitions since he broke into the senior squad back in 2016. So he's nearly now made 2 century appearances for the football club, and so far anywhere, Rashford has spent the entirety of his career with Man United. He's been a United player overall since the age of 7, and he's now only the age of 22. But I think when he's on form, he can get good runs in behind. He's got that finishing aspect. Very, very good player, and his record against the top 6 sides has been good. And like I said, Martial will play up top, and I don't think he was too good against Watford, but I think in the other games he's played in this season, I think he's done really, really well. Obviously, he's sustained a few injuries this season. Martial, of course, was out with a hamstring injury earlier on in the season, so he was out of action for a while with that. He also had a muscular problem. Martial himself is now on 191 appearances for the football club. And he has scored around 55 goals in 191 appearances. This is in all competitions since his arrival from Monaco back in 2015. And Martial is only the age of 24. So yeah, that's my starting 11 prediction that I am going to go with. That I am, going to go with them and all that. So yeah, like I said, guys, Solsjaker has now been at the football club for a year and that. Obviously now he's into his second year as Manchester United manager. Obviously, there's many expectations he has to exceed in his second year. Don't forget Solskjaer was recently talking about his roller coaster year at Man United, and he's also come out and said that he does obviously not expect more inconsistency. He expects more inconsistency in that. And, Solskjaer's been permanent manager for around 9 months now. 9 months he's been a permanent manager. And obviously, analysing the vast majority of that 9-month period, he's endured a difficult time. Totally comparison, to the time when he was the interim manager. Because I thought Solskjaer did really, really well when he was the interim manager, in that 3-month period. He exceeded expectations, the results were good, the performances were good. We won our first 8 games, we went and won 14 out of 19 in total in all competitions. Then that was obviously enough to give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the job then. Obviously he's on a 3-year contract worth £7.5 million a year, But, obviously, one of Solskjaer's most iconic moments, was the game against PSG. That's one of the best games we've had under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Obviously, when we overcome that 2-goal deficit last season, and obviously, come back to win 3-1. The biggest away win we've had under Solskjaer, was the 5-1 win against Cardiff. That was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's first game as Manchester United manager, and that was actually the first time we'd scored 5 goals since the Alex Ferguson era and that. But for me, like I've said to you on my other videos, there's some aspects of me, that do credit Solskjaer. I've obviously, got some element of concerns about him. I think he does rely on the kids too much, does Solskjaer. I praise him because he's got a lot of trustworthy in his, young players and that, and we've got a lot of young players in the squad that are developing and trying to improve and that, and obviously they want to emulate to that level, and Solskjaer, of course, is still keen on recruiting young players into the football club, like he did do during the summer. And obviously there's a lot of young players in the squad now, but Solskjaer showed when he came into the football club that everyone everyone would get the chance to express themselves. He also said at the start of this season that the young upcoming players would get given their opportunities and that, which is obviously very very good. And I can assure that there's a lot of young players that will become a success at the football club. I think Greenwood will do well. Greenwood's on 7 senior goals this season for the football club. He's done really, really well, and the vast majority of his 7 goals have come in the Europa League because he's been mainly starting in the Europa League. He hasn't really started in the Premier League. He's made a lot of substitute appearances in the Premier League, but Greenwood is replicating this season than what he did, for the reserves last season. But very, very good player, only at the age of 18. And I think as he develops more, he probably will overcome Marcus Rashford. Probably may even overcome Anthony Martial. There's a lot of Manchester United fans saying that Martial should actually be dropped more. And we should, and Man United believe, that Mason Greenwood is a better solution than that. But yeah, he's done really, really well. And Brandon Williams has done well. Tuanzebe has done well in the games he's played in this season. Obviously, James Garner's done well. But there's a few young upcoming players I think Man United needs to consider getting rid of next year. So if we could get rid of some of them next year, that would be a good piece of business from the football club, because I've got some element of concerns about some of them. I also do believe overall anywhere that there's problematic players at the football club that do need to be moved on next year. I think we need to get rid of another 4, 5, maybe even 6 more players, because these players that are no longer good enough to represent the football club. Like I've said to you, we've had long-serving players at the club, and there's still players here now that have been long-serving players. Obviously, Young's been long-serving at the football club. He's now into his 9th season at Manchester United. He's enjoyed 8 years here. Obviously, he's initially lost his place in the team. He's initially lost his place in the team as Ashley Young. But we've got a variety of fullbacks in the team anywhere that can be competitive. Young's played quite a few games this season, but he has lost his place in the team. Obviously, when Young was young, Ashley Young that is, he was predominantly a winger, but as he was obviously developing in that, he transformed into a formidable fullback and that. So he's predominantly a right back, but played a few times as a right winger. We've played him at left back a few times. He's also played on that left wing on a few occasions. He signed a new 1-year extension last season. It was in February earlier on this year, but we shouldn't have given him that new 1-year extension. It did say, this was prior to the Colchester game, that Ashley Young will be released at the end of the season. Obviously, when his contract expires, his current contract, because there hasn't been talks between Man United and Ashley Young over a new deal at the football club. So I do presume he will be moved on at the end of the season. He's past his sell-by date. He's 34. He's 35 next year. So he's one player I do expect to leave at the end of the season. I think Phil Jones is another one of the players that does need to be moved on. Phil Jones has obviously enjoyed around 8 years at Man United. He's now into his 9th season at Man United. So he's been here more or less the same amount of time as Ashley Young as Phil Jones. He signed a new long-term contract last season. Jones's appearances, of course, are limited now at the football club anywhere, because obviously Harry Maguire and Vince Lindelof are our first choice centre-backs. He's played a few games this season, that's Phil Jones, but I think he needs to be moved on and he is aging up. Rojo, it's likely he could be one of the players that's leaving next year as well. Rojo's appearances are limited at the football club. Not only that, he has sustained quite a lot of injuries as a Manchester United player. Not to the extent of Eric Bay in that, or you could put Luke Shaw into the equation, but he's still obviously sustained quite a few injuries, and Rojo is currently injured at the moment. He's got a muscle injury, and he is out until the new year. I think Rojo's got under 2 years left on his contract, so it will be beneficial if we could cash in for him in the January transfer window. I'm surprised Rojo didn't leave in the summer. I'm surprised he didn't leave in the summer, Marcus Rojo, because I expected him to. Because obviously don't forget Everton were in for him. There was quite a few other clubs in for him. We put around the £25 million valuation on him, but obviously not Everton were not willing to meet that. But analysing it anyway, we've got a lot of centre halves in the team now. We've got around 6 centre halves. Despite the fact that Chris Smalling went out on loan to Roma. And he was a long-serving player at Man United. He enjoyed 9 years at the football club, did Smalling. Matic, he's definitely one of the problematic players. His appearances have been limited, due to his inconsistency. But he hasn't really played anywhere because obviously he's been out with injury. Recently he's come back now, but he was out with injury. He was out there for over 2 months with injury. It was totally comparison to last season because last season Matic was our first choice, but he's so inconsistent now, and he is aging up, and I've got element of concerns about Nemanja Matic. So he comes to an end of his contract at the end of the season, does Matic. So from our perspective, it would be beneficial if we could try and cash in for him in January. We overpaid for Matic. Paid £40 million for him from Chelsea, but at the time we got him under the Jose Mourinho era, obviously, he wasn't our first choice signing. He was like our third choice signing was Matic and that. But yeah, some more players definitely need to leave. But I don't only think, we need a change of management at the football club. I think we need to see a variety of changes. I think, we need to see Ed Woodward go. We need to recommend new chairman in. I think we need to see new coaching staff. I think we need to get rid of our board because our board have been a liability for several years. On their poor recruitment and their poor selection of managers. So we need to see a variety of changes at the club. I think we also need to get a new director of footballing. We need to get a new director of footballing. We was in for a new director of football during the course of the summer, but obviously we didn't get that director of football. So if we could recommend one in, that would be very beneficial. And I did say that's one of the structural changes that we need to see at the football club. But like I said, everyone's accountable for how poor we've been for the last 6 or 7 years. And, and it's not all of the blame stems from Solskjaer. He's definitely not accountable for some of it and that because vast majority of this season we've been tactically naive. Some games, we have showed some tactical flexibility, but to me, Solskjaer has no plan B. Solskjaer doesn't have a style of play, and this is obviously what concerns me. And this is why I don't think he's the right man to elevate Man United forward. And don't forget, recently, Solskjaer was speaking about, the importance of us, lifting trophies and that. And I think the only chance we've got of winning any silverware this season is the Carabao Cup. So if we can progress past Man City over the 2 legs in the semi-final, then I'm very, very convinced, we can win the Carabao Cup. There's a chance we could win the Europa League, that's a positive as well, you can say, we're into knockout stages of the Europa League. Obviously, we did well in our group, we won Group L. Obviously, we have got a club Bruges in knockout stages, and that's one route we have got, to Champions League football is winning the Europa League. Obviously, if we don't do that, then obviously we've got to hope that we can get top 4. But I'm actually sceptical that we'll get that top 4 because obviously now we are 7 points behind top 4. But we've had our chances to close the gap. We'd have beaten Watford, we'd have beaten Everton, we'd have closed the gap because Chelsea, I know, got back to winning ways against Tottenham at the weekend 2-0. But Chelsea, had lost their last 2 games prior to that game against Tottenham. So Chelsea were on a bit of a bad run. But I don't see us getting it. But I did say, didn't I, at the start of this season that our expectations this season will be to finish in that top 4 and that, so we can get the Champions League. I did say at the start of this season that I didn't expect us to mount any kind of title challenge up. I don't think we're going to win the league for a number of years. It's dependent on, who we recommend into the football club in the next couple of windows. As you all know, there is a lot of players on our agenda. Obviously, our number one priority target is Erling Haaland. And if recent reports are to be believed, then his transfer to Man United is looking very, very imminent in January. So he's going to be our first signing in January, our fourth signing overall under the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era. So yeah. So it says reportedly, we're willing to offer Erling Haaland around £200,000 a week to come to Manchester United. That's obviously, a substantial amount. And, he's set to get a pay rise by around 10 times, because I think he's on around 20 grand a week at the moment at Red Bull Salzburg. But as it stands already, we've got, players on big contracts. We've got Rashford on 300 odd grand a week, with bonuses included. Martial on 200 odd grand a week. Pogba on 290 grand a week. De Gea on 375 grand a week. Maguire on 200 odd grand a week. Lingard on over 100 grand a week. So we've got players on massive wages at the football club. So he would be one of the highest paid players if he was to come in and we was willing to give him 200 grand a week, Erling Haaland. I think reportedly he's set to cost us in the excess of around £76 million, which again is a substantial amount. But then reportedly we will have to loan him back to Red Bull Salzburg for the remainder of the season. Don't forget, there's a lot of other clubs that have attracted their interest in him. Borussia Dortmund, Red Bull Leipzig and Juventus have all been interested in him. Recently, he had negotiations with the representatives of RB Leipzig and Borussia Dortmund, And a couple of weeks ago, Solskjaer flew to Austria to meet up. So the two did Ed Woodward, to meet up with Erling Haaland to discuss a transfer to Man United in January. And allegedly he told Solskjaer that his preference is a move to Manchester United. So according to Solskjaer, he said that the player has made a decision on his future. Don't forget, recently it said he allegedly boarded a plane from Norway to Manchester. Solskjaer had denied that. He actually said the route from Norway wasn't to Manchester, so he said he was on a Christmas holiday. But with that coming out in the media, that had fueled more speculation. Obviously, he recently signed a Manchester United shirt. It was a Photoshop. But Erling Haaland has been a revelation this season for Red Bull Salzburg. He has scored 28 goals in 22 games in all competitions. And maybe, if you come to the Premier League, he could be totally comparison to how he's been at Red Bull Salzburg. It could be a total flop, because the Premier League, he's playing amongst different players. It's a different era for him and that. And he's experiencing different facilities. And obviously at the moment he hasn't played in the Premier League. But it's beneficial as well, because he's played under Solskjaer's guidance during his period with Mould. And, Solskjaer is keen on a reunion with the player. So I think, we're expected to sign him in January, and I think he will be a good adequate replacement for Romelu Lukaku. Because you can say we looked very exposed in that attacking line following the departures of Romelu Lukaku and Alexis Sanchez and that. But I think he complement the likes of Rashford, Martial and Daniel James well with Erling Haaland. Like I said, we've got 4 targets for January. He's one of them. Obviously, there's been a lot of speculation going on regarding Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish, of course, currently plays for Aston Villa, and he's been a revelation this season for Aston Villa as Jack Grealish. He spent the majority of his career with Aston Villa. Obviously risen up their academy. I think he's been in their senior squad since 2013, is it 14? He was in their youth academy for a lot of years. I think he was in their youth academy for around 11 years. And but he did have a loan spell with Notts County. But I think he made his debut in 2014. So he's been in the senior squad now for 5 years or just over 5 years. In total for Villa, this is in the Premier League. I think he's made 50 appearances so far, scored around 6 goals, provided 5 assists. He has played 16 games this season for Villa, so he has been a regular starter. He's 24 years of age. He can play as an attacking mid. He can also play as a winner, so he is versatile. So he's another player on our agenda. He's under contract with Aston Villa until 2023. I do believe also Tottenham have been long-term admirers of the player. So would you like him to come to Man United? And he's obviously well Premier League proven. I can't estimate how much we'd have to pay for him and that. I'm not too sure about that, but he's one of the players there that's on my agenda. Obviously, James Maddison is another one of them. We've been long admirers of James Maddison. I like James Maddison a lot. A very, very good player. Well Premier League proven. He's flourished under Brendan Rodgers' guidance. He's predominantly an attacking midfielder, but Brendan Rodgers has played him out on the left quite a few times. He's only the age of 23. He recently turned 23 not too long ago. But James Maddison is now into his second season with Leicester. He's doing well, and I think he's replicating, what he did in his first season with Leicester. Because don't forget, last season James Maddison created more chances than any other player in the Premier League and that. And I think we're seeing him as an adequate replacement for Paul Pogba. But regardless of what happens with Paul Pogba anywhere, whether he stays or goes, he's still we still need to address that midfield. James Maddison's still got around 3.5-4 years left on his contract with Leicester. Leicester only paid around £20 million to him from Norwich in the summer of 2018, and I thought he enjoyed a good couple of years in the Championship. He was also with Aberdeen on loan. He began his career at Coventry as a youngster. I am aware that we'd have to pay a substantial amount for James Maddison. We'd probably have to pay in the excess of around 60 or 70 million pounds. So we'd probably have to pay the same or the similar fee to what we paid for Harry Maguire, to convince Leicester to offload him. But yeah, he's another one of the players on our agenda, and so too is Declan Rice. He's another one of the players that's on our agenda. So it is good, that we are making plans for next year. But like I've said, Solsjaker is still in the process of rebuilding this Man United team. Take into account, there's only 3 players that are his, and that's the 3 players he recommended in during the summer: Daniel James, Bazaka and Harry Maguire. We spent nearly £150 million on them, so we spent a substantial amount during the summer. But the vast majority of this team is Jose Mourinho's, because Jose Mourinho recommended 11 players into the football club. Now Solskjaer is still inheriting the vast majority of them. Take into account, but Solskjaer is inheriting a good squad. There's these good players in our team. Take into account the amount of money that's been invested into the football club over the years in all the managerial areas in that. But like I said, it's not always about spending big on players. It's not always about getting them Glasgow players, because it doesn't always get you in that commanding position where you want to be. You can get the best players in the world. If you're not working as a team and you're not playing as a unit, then obviously, it isn't going to work out. But we're not in the commanding position, that we should be in. We're not in that commanding position because we are the biggest club in the world. We are the most successful team in England historically in that. And, we're not, and I hope as time goes on, I was going to say, that we can replicate our history. And I hope now this team, this day and age, can replicate, what the team did under Alex Ferguson and that. But I think regardless of who our manager is, whether it's Solskjaer, whether it's someone else, no one will ever invoke Ferguson's legacy at Manchester United, and definitely no Solskjaer won't. And that's something we have got to accept. But we're not under the Ferguson era. We haven't been under the Ferguson era for nearly 7 years, so. But like I've said anyway, we've got to get back to winning ways against Newcastle. We have to get back to winning ways against them. We win this in our last 2 league games. So this is a game Manchester United do need to win in that. But we are aware it's going to be a difficult game because, like I said, since Steve Bruce has gone to Newcastle have done quite well. Obviously, the Liverpool-Leicester is going to be a good game as well. Probably believe Liverpool are going to win that. These 9 points, Liverpool are 9 points ahead of Leicester. Or is it 10 points, ahead of Leicester. 11 points in front of Man City. Liverpool are on course to win their first Premier League title ever. you know, because they haven't won it all in all for 30 years. But yeah. So anyway, guys, drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do, consider subscribing as always, and take care. God bless, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.